Hello, I'm Ben. Welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about finances real quick and just talk about family and what you should be doing. I read an article this morning by a gentleman who's been a financial representative for the better part of 4 decades. And in this, he's worked with a lot of high net worth families for just over 30 years. And he basically has seen some trends that the richest families try to maintain, and this helps them maintain their wealth. And I think the first one is one that most people miss these days, because these days we use big terms or big swathing claims to try to cover detail that probably shouldn't be bundled up like that. So, for example, smart people, brilliant people know that it's easier to keep your wealth than to create more wealth, okay? So for future generations, especially if you're handing that money down, you need to create a sense of purpose in your children. And so instead of telling your kids they can be anything that they want to be, which is just false, they can't. People are going to get in your way. Your own educational limitations are going to get in your way. What you can retain and what you don't retain will get in your way. So everybody can't be anything. Ultimately, you need to see where your skills are and go in that path. I've said before, a lot of people say, do what gives you joy or work in something you love and you'll never work a day of your life. That's false. If you do something that you love for a living, pretty soon you won't love doing that thing anymore. That's how it works out 100% of the time. So basically, the key to keeping your wealth for 100 years is not one brilliant decision, but making good small decisions regularly. So on the channel, when I talk about people that are fresh starting, or if you're retiring, if you're looking at retirement like I am, and you're wondering what that looks like, for me, I will never retire. I'll be working until the day I go in the ground, but I'll be working for myself. And I say that because I am doing things daily. For instance, today, I got up this morning to make sure I'm up before the stock exchange opens, because as soon as it opens, I'm going to see where I'm trending today on a couple things and tend to plan to share some or sell some shares that I have in a singular company because it's doing successfully right now because the whole market's up. But I expect that's going to start turning here in the next week or so. So I'm going to go ahead and dump that now while I have time, even though I may lose a couple $100 between now and next week. If it continues to climb for a few days, it will prevent me from losing more than that when I'm away and can't tend to it daily. So making small, good decisions is how you keep your wealth. And ultra high net worth families know that. So where people mess up is when they spend ridiculous amounts of money. And so if people don't have a purpose, that's why you can go online, look up lottery winners, and you'll see how many lottery winners actually go broke in their lifetime. And typically it's in a very short period of time. It's because they didn't have to earn that money, and what comes easy goes easy. Okay, that's an old saying because it's true. So when you have future generations that didn't earn the wealth, but they grew up with the wealth, you have to set a proper example, and you have to make sure they have a distinct purpose in their mind of what they're going after. So you have to create the right family culture that instills a sense of purpose in the next generations to foster an environment where children and grandchildren don't feel entitled, but are motivated to make their own way and add value to the world. That is a great sentence. They're motivated to make their own way and add value to the world. Shaquille O'Neal did a very good job of that. Shaquille, he was one of the first to go straight to the pros right out of high school. And I think he played a year or something, part of the year. I'm not exactly sure how it worked as a blue chip, and then went straight into the pros. And while he was in the pros, he realized how many pro athletes were dead broke and filing bankruptcy and losing their house and their cars and all of this. And he decided he didn't want to be another rich fool. So he went back to school and got his education. He created a purpose in his mind, and that purpose is what he instilled in his children. And he has quite a few children. But to them, they've seen a father that is grateful for what he has. He's charitable. He gives as much as he can to other people, but he works all the time. Shaquille O'Neal he's a doctor. He's a PhD in business. I think finance is what it is. But he also owns a lot of restaurants and a lot of businesses he's a part owner of, and has stock in a lot of these businesses. So his children, even though he's extremely wealthy, they're not granted a thing. They are coming up in the world where they have to find their own purpose, do those things, be successful in the end. I'm sure he'll support them and take care of them after that fact. So I think creating the right family culture, it doesn't necessarily mean you came from wealth. You can do it right now with your family. You can do it right now with your children. If you're looking at retirement and you have a limited retirement savings, you might not be able to pass that on to your children. But what you may do is be able to live frugally and instill those same principles in them and have them live frugally with you and support you in doing that. And then should you have money left when you do move on, then they'll have something at that time. But creating the right family culture is number one, and I think that's a great call out. I mean, in the world today, people are so worried about what strangers think that they will blow their finances. I've seen it before. I did a mortgage for a family one time that they lived in a mobile home, a single wide mobile home. The home was worth $30,000, but they had $220,000 worth of cars sitting in the driveway. It was ridiculous. They just wanted people to think that they had all the money in the world. Instead, they were dead broke. Had they got reasonable cars with the housing expense they had, they would have been able to have actually a lot of money. But they were driving around in it and depreciating assets that weren't even depreciating assets. They were all financed. So they were just liabilities, just driving around in expensive liabilities. So that's what you want to do. You want to instill a sense of purpose in the next generations. You want to give them something to be motivated on. Generators don't see the wealth as their own, but something they steward for the future, something that they should plan to hand off in the future. That was the way the world worked until a few generations ago. Our parents of Gen X pretty much screwed that up. But some of us Gen Xers are trying to turn that around and do that and have something for future generations and do what we can to help those that come after us. So that's pretty important. The second thing he said to do first is creating a right family culture of purpose. The next is treating tax planning as an ongoing process. Tax planning is extremely important. You need to understand where taxes are going to hit to prevent yourself from losing money on taxes. You want to have write-offs so you can offset a lot of that. So where you basket your stocks, where you basket your mutual funds, where you sell these at, and what positions, and what you offset from gains elsewhere, all that is something you have to pay attention to. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, because I know with the income this year, if I sell that and I reinvest in some other things, I won't be looking at capital gains or anything like that. So, the gross return expectation is the same, but after tax returns, it should be significantly higher. So you want to make sure that you treat tax planning as an ongoing process. It's your money. You worked hard for it. So you need to plan on how you're paying taxes and offsetting what you can legally and responsibly so you can keep more of your money. The secret to life and being wealthy is not just earn. For 38 years, that's what I did. So the years after that, the focus was more on not trying to make all the money in the world, but trying to keep all the money in the world. And so then you end up focusing on different things. And here's the next thing he said on the list was investing long term. The stuff I'm selling today, I've had for 2 decades. I've given it time to rise up to the point that now it's time to sell it. 2 decades is typically the shortest. I have other stocks that I've owned since prior to those that are still banking and keeping on rolling, right? So the idea for investments, it should be a long term. So I say save. What I do is I put money in a savings account until it grows to a certain point. And when it grows to that point, I take it out and invest it accordingly. If you're in IRAs or Roth IRAs, the maximum you can invest in those, I think right now is $7,500 per IRA per year. So if you're doing that, then the top end you can invest in those is 15K. So then if you have more than that, you can turn around and invest it in something else. So that's how you have to be thinking. There's limitations to things too. So that long-term investing, that's where the secret's at. And that's what Warren Buffett will tell you. If you buy something low, you make your money when you buy it. So you buy something low and then you let it grow, and that's how you make your wealth. Holding, it says basically the common behavior that they do is buying and holding core assets for long periods to reduce taxes and transaction costs. For example, if they bought a house in Aspen and held on to it for decades, the asset's appreciation is likely to be significant and outweigh the cost of maintaining it over time. The same principle applies to financial assets. Ultra high net worth individuals with well-planned equity portfolios almost never pay taxes on them because they know how to buy and hold. And so that's the key thing. If you're going to do something like that and cash out and take a profit, then you need to have a loss elsewhere to offset it. And that's how investors continually invest. That's how I look for investments sometimes. I know if I'm going to be in a cash position where I'm going to need to show a loss for a few years, I will invest in a small business, something like that. For 7 years, I had a antique shop and was vested in that so I could have write-offs. And that was the whole purpose of me participating in the business. And the other thing is it gets small businesses time to grow and create their own fanfare and their own plan to move forward without that constant support from capital investment. So that is investing long term. So the first one is creating the right family culture, give them a sense of purpose. The second is treating tax planning as ongoing process, investing long term. And the fourth is being frugal. You may be surprised, but ultra high net worth individuals can be very frugal. While the most people assume that they wouldn't worry about the nitty gritty stuff, if they had that much money, I think one way people retain their wealth is by being very frugal and paying attention to cost. I think Warren Buffett is the finest example of that. One of the richest men on the face of the planet, has been for 50 years, lives in the same house he bought 50 years ago, 60 years ago for, $35,000. That's exactly what I'm talking about. These people that are flashy and have huge houses and big cars and all this, what you find out at the end of the day, they don't own any of it. It's all rented. They're paying somebody else money each month to borrow what is theirs. Okay, so they own nothing. The problem with owning nothing is nothing's going to gain value. You're not building any interest in anything. You're not building any equity in anything. So you're basically just renting your life. And so when that rent money's spent, it's gone. And you haven't purchased an asset with it. So once that term that you're living there is up, you're out. You've got nothing to show for it. Once that term that you've leased that vehicle is up, you're out. You got nothing to show for it. Unless you buy out the lease and then it's just more money. You could have bought it in the beginning and done less and done better. So I'll say this. Being frugal means different things to different people. To me, being frugal means when I go to the grocery store, I have a list, and I stick to the list. You can limit yourself by taking cash and not using a card. A lot of times a card hurts people because they end up spending more than they wanted to spend in the first place. So if you use cash, you can't spend more than that cash you have on you. Leave the card at the house. Be bold. Leave everything at the house. And if you can pay by cell phone, leave that sucker at the house too. And take the cash. Be frugal. I say all the time, the only thing I buy new is underwear, socks, and shoes. I thought about it the other day after I said that. You got to have good shoes, guys. You got to have good shoes. But jeans, shirts, all that stuff, this I got new because it was a gift. But all that stuff I buy secondhand because if I buy something, I'm going to keep it until I wear it out, which means I'm going to wear it until it's gone. I'm going to wear it until it's useless. Jeans don't wear out unless you're working in a hard-working manual labor type position. Your jeans most likely are going to be safe. When I used to work in chip production plants, I tore my clothes all the time. So it was different then because it was a blue-collar environment. That hard, sweaty work was going on, so you would ruin clothes. I'd wear shoes out too because there was nails and all those things. So the thing I would tell you is be frugal. And if that doesn't mean, guys, that you don't buy yourself something nice. What I mean is You don't buy the cheapest because the cheapest might wear out. So for shoes, for example, work shoes, if you buy a pair of work shoes that's cheap, that's 20 some odd bucks, they may wear out in 2 months. Whereas if you buy a nice pair of work shoes, they may last you 6 to 8 months and give you better support and allow you to perform better during the day. So frugal means buying the best value. So it may mean, and I'll use boots for example, there's a certain boot that I like to wear, and I went to Cabela's one time I was on a cross country trip fixing a plant in another state, and came by a Cabela's or something. No, it was an outdoor sports store, I think up in the Midwest, that was closing. I think the whole line was going out of business. And I go by there, and they have the shoes on clearance, and they had the kind of work boots that I wore, and there were 6 pairs of them. And I bought all of them because they were like $60 a pair or $50 a pair, and typically like $170, $180 a pair. So I know that sounds like a lot of money, but when I wear that pair of shoes for 8 months and it keeps me able to be on my feet 14 to 18 hours a day at the time, that's a pretty important piece of what I have going on. So that allows me to be more productive and earn my money. So that's what I mean by being frugal. It doesn't mean you're living cheaply. It just means you're being smart with your money. Buying, off-name brands, typically most of the stuff is produced at exactly the same plants as the name brand stuff. So be smart about that, and just do things that way. Try not to rent, try to own. Okay, that's the secret to it. So good little article. I think it's worthwhile. This guy's been helping folks like that for over 30 years. And these are the richest people in America, which are the richest people on earth. So something to say there. Hopefully this is useful to you. If you're staring down the barrel of retirement right now, you need to start thinking about these things, start putting this money away. A lot of answers are in working a budget, living on a budget, and being frugal. If you want some more information on that, put a comment below and tell me what you'd like to see, and I'll work that out for you and do a video on it so I can get into that a little bit deeper. But the biggest part is that you're being deliberate. You don't accidentally fall into expenses. You take your time, you do things specifically, and you handle your expenses the best way you can that way. The biggest way that you can be frugal for everyone is downsize. Downsize, downsize, downsize. The less house you have, the less heat, the less cool you need, right? The less things you have, the less maintenance you have to pay. The less you have to drive, the less wear and tear and less gas you have to pay. So the idea is sometimes being frugal is just using cash instead of card so you can see what you're spending, keeping your world closer to what you do. Buy books, DVDs, and CDs. That way you don't have a bunch of TV subscriptions. You have stuff that you own now. Buy everything used from Goodwill or a thrift store. It will cost you a couple of bucks. You have all your entertainment right there, and that will help take care of a lot of those expenditures. I don't go to movie theaters anymore. I'm not spending $20 for one ticket to see the garbage, and I'm not spending $15 on a tiny package of candy. That makes no sense to me. I like watching it better at my house anyway, so when it comes out in a year, I'll watch it then, but it's not even the case anymore. Typically, movies are released within 2 or 3 months. So it's just, that's the way to be frugal. That's the way to save. You don't have to cut things out. You just have to do it wisely and be deliberate in your spending. Hopefully this is useful to you. If it is, please like, please subscribe. If you know someone that may benefit from this information, please share this video with them. I'm Ben. Be good.